Well, folks, once again, Captain Boat Builder here, welcoming you back to my basement boatyard. Today is episode number 3, and we're calling it Bahama part 2. And the reason for that is I still wish I was in the Bahamas, and I'm still working on the Amas. What I realized the more I work on the Amas is they're actually like two little boats, almost like two very small stitch and glue kayaks. If you could cut a hole in the top for some kind of a seat, maybe find a really agile squirrel and give him a paddle, he might have fun paddling around in these kayaks. But I'm getting there. You'll see the progress. It's slow. I hope you enjoy the progress so far. Maybe you've learned a trick or two, but I would encourage any of you who are interested to submit a comment. Let me know what you think about the project, especially if you have experience with small trimaran sailboats, converted kayaks, anything similar to the project that I'm working on. If you have any suggestions, I'd sure like to hear them. Maybe a technique that I haven't thought of and something that would help me with the project. So again, I'd like to listen to the comments, especially having to do with small trimarans. So once again, here we go. Episode number 3, Bahama part 2. Well, there are many different ways to attach the panels together using the wire. And what I found to be quite important is that you want to start with the panels. You want to start right here in the middle. You want to start in the middle and work incrementally out towards both ends at the same time. I also think that it's easier if you put the wires from the inside to the outside, so that when you get the thing partially assembled in the stands, you're making the adjustments on tightening the wires from the outside. Another thing that I think is very important, and I've learned this unfortunately the hard way from 2 of my previous builds, is when you first connect the wires, make sure that they're loose. You don't want to clamp down on them right away, because you need to get the whole shape of the boat, the whole shape of each ama pretty much the way you like it. You want to have the seams between the 2 panels line up just right, and then you start applying more pressure and tightening it. If you tighten it in the beginning, when you're doing it in the beginning stages like I'm doing right now, what happens is the wood can't move around enough and you'll get buckles in it. So try to remember that the first time you install the wires and the first time you start twisting the back sides, do it gently, because you're going to have to do it again maybe a couple of times. Now I've reached the point where I've got the 2 pieces together, here and here and here and here, for one of the hulls. I've got the top planks and the bottom planks connected on both the left and the right side for this is just the starboard ama. And you can see that it's pretty loose, and it makes it a lot easier to move it around. And now I'm going to be wiring the panels together along the bottom. And again, I'm going to put the wires in from the inside to the outside, so that when I decide to tighten everything up, I can just turn it over and adjust the wires from the outside. So now I have a string running from one end to the other end, as close as I can get it to the center line. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to check the hull for any twist. I don't think I see any right now. Looks pretty straight. Yeah, I think it looks okay. So while you're trying to get all the planks lined up, and what I'm talking about is, in other words, you can see here how these planks don't line up right here. You can see how this overlaps. This one overlaps, and there's an overlap here. To get them to stay in place, you can't wire them carefully enough to get all of them to be in place at the same time. So what I did was I glued the center seam, that's this seam right in the center, I glued that together on the outside and positioned it as carefully as I could to make the alignment perfect. I've got a little extra resin that I put in here, and I will be doing that for the whole length of the seam. But the other thing that I did was I took these bulkheads and I put these bulkheads in place exactly. I mean, they fit exactly the way they're supposed to fit. But you can see here that I've only glued it in the corners, which means that it's stabilized between here and here. And now when I try to move these planks back and forth to get them to go together, to get them to just close in, I don't have to worry about all these other things moving around at the same time. So this is a little technique that I think will work. I'll have a complete report for you later. I think it's a way to, it takes a long time, I'll say that, but I think it's a way to stabilize this a little bit at a time so that you don't have any problem getting these planks to line up just right. We'll see. Now, one thing I'm experimenting with, and I've had problems in my previous builds, I've had problems getting these seams to be exactly square and uniform. And so what I'm trying to do now is I've gone through and tighten up these wires, push the planks with my fingers from the outside, from the inside, so that they're as straight and the way they touch each other is as true as I can possibly get it. So we get a nice smooth line here. And I've gone over it with just a little bit of just unthickened resin to sink in, to hold it in place. And I'm only doing one side at a time because what I realized is when you push on the other side, this side goes out. So if you can see this one, see how the edges don't quite line up? But when I work on this side by itself in isolation, I should be able to get these edges just as smooth as the other side. And that way we have, you can see here, we have a nice clean edge, not only for the glass, but for the painting. So this is something that I just decided to try, where I'm just doing these edges one side at a time. I decided to fillet the center seam here in the Bahama. It's a little bit too narrow to lay fiberglass tape in there. Should be strong enough with the filleting on the inside and the 4-ounce glass on the outside. I've also filleted the bulkheads on both sides. And I'm going to run the filleting material all the way up into the bow. Can't quite reach it, but I've got an idea for that. And then the last thing for strengthening the inside of the hull is right here on this joint between the top plank and the bottom plank on both sides. I've decided I'm going to use fiberglass tape. This is almost too flat for filleting to have any strength. So I'll be taping all these seams and then the inside will be finished. So now I've got one hull upside down and all the wires are still pretty loose. So now comes the very, very slow process of trying to get these planks to line up perfectly. Whether it's the center plank or this one on the side, you can push it out from inside. You can get them to line up. So what I plan to do is I plan to go the length and line up some of them. I'm not going to try and pull them all at the same time. I'm going to try to line up some of them. I'm going to put just a little bit of resin in there, and that'll be like a temporary glue, and then I'll go back. But I think it's going to line up pretty well. Pleased with it so far, and if there's any twist in the hull, I can't say that I see it. But now comes the slow part of lining up all the seams, and you have to do that so that all the paint lines look good. Well, now I have the fiberglass work on the deck panels completed, and what we've got is the 2 forward bow panels, the 2 larger center section panels, and also the 2 pointed stern panels. These are covered with 1 coating of 4-ounce fiberglass, and I'll be putting on 3 coats of epoxy, one right after another, and that should be enough to get me started on sanding to get a beautiful finish here. One thing that I have done that's just maybe a little bit different, I'm not sure it was necessary, but I did it anyway. These are the two large sections that go in between the amas. These are the center sections of the amas. And I put 2 layers of 4-ounce cloth. See, I've got 2 layers. I doubled it up because I'm not sure, but I have 2 grandchildren that are young boys, quite small now. And I think that if we go sailing and if they decide to go swimming, they'll come on board the amas in the center section. And I'm just adding a little bit of extra strength for that. So these are almost finished, and then the last thing, of course, is to put 1 layer of epoxy on the underside just to prevent a lot of moisture getting into the wood, and getting closer to putting it all together. One of the things that has to be done before you start thinking about gluing on the deck pieces is the shear clamps have to be planed down just a little bit so that the deck will sit flat on them. If you look at this on the left right here, you can see this space. That's because of this edge of the shear clamp resting on the planking here on the outside creates this space. So if you were going to glue the deck down, it wouldn't glue down flush. And so you have to, with a plane or sandpaper or something, you have to take that edge off the shear clamp. And it's not difficult, the wood is relatively soft, but it just takes a long time to get it just the way you want it. And what I found is that this can be done easily with your little Stanley small hand plane, or also with this tool that I have experimented with called the spoke shave, which was new to me. You use both hands, it's got a blade, it's just like a plane, except it works a little bit differently. So between the plane and the spoke shave, you have to take the edge off the shear clamp. And you can see from all the wood chips and pieces, it's a surprising amount of wood. But the idea is when you get finished, the deck will lay down flat on the shear clamp right here. And you get a great bond, and it also sets you up to have a very nice edge. Just another part of the process. Well, folks, that's about it for today. What I have for you now is just a little preview of coming episodes. And you can see that with the 2 amas, I'm putting on the layer of 4-ounce fiberglass cloth, starting the epoxy buildup, and they're really starting to look like completed amas. So thanks again for watching. So long.